Hi, I'm Brienne. Do you find it intimidating or hard to paint more complicated skies in watercolor? Well, the good news is that watercolor is made for painting skies. And I'm going to show you how you can improve your confidence in painting more expressive and interesting skies. The secret is sky studies. These studies are fun, quick, and good for all levels of artists. So let's get painting. You want to start by dividing out a large piece of paper, this is 16 by 20, into sections. You want the sections large enough so that you can get a good variation in the sky and in the clouds. When I'm doing these studies, I do look at the types of clouds, and I'll use reference photos like this. This is a backlit cloud, so you know it's dark in front, rim around the side, and then you've got these different ones, white clouds with shadows on the bottom or on the side. You want to just look at the type of clouds. What's going on with the sun? Where is it? What are the colors? What are the edges? So the main things I'm looking for are those colors, value, and the edges, okay? So I'm not going to mimic or copy the photo exactly. With your paper now divided, you can look at a reference photo. I have this one here in this first section. I'm going to do white clouds with shadows on the bottoms, right? And so you want to think of sun direction, where's the lightest? And I wet the entire sky area with a warm wash. Notice how it's tinted a little. I have 3 pools of paint, cobalt blue, quinacridone rose, and transparent yellow oxide, okay? And those are my primary colors, which I'll be using to mix the grays. Now I also use a little bit of horizon blue to kind of tone down and soften that cobalt blue so it's not so bright. With the paper still wet like this, and by the way, my board is at a very small angle, about 5-10 degrees, with just, I have a roll of tape under there, but it's not flat. That's the key. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by painting around the cloud shapes. Now remember, I'm not painting this sky, the reference photo exactly. I'm just using it as an idea of what I want. So I'm painting the blue sky going around the cloud shapes. And notice how there's nice soft edges, and that's what I want. And I want them to not run too much, and that's why the paper or the board is not at a really big, angle. As I come down towards the horizon, you'll notice I added a little more transparent yellow oxide and a little bit of quin rose to kind of warm up that sky. And I can lighten it as well with a little extra water. So once I've got those sky shapes around the cloud shapes, okay, then I'm going to start bringing in the shadow side of the cloud. So I've mixed a gray using my red, yellow, and blue. And I'm thinking of the shadow being on the bottom side of the clouds, painting right into the blue shape, okay, because I want them to blend together and get soft. Now, the other thing you're going to notice as I paint with the gray, I'm mixing, a little more red, a little more yellow. I added some lavender into that as well, so that as I paint the shadow side of the cloud, it's not just one color, one hue, right? So I'm adjusting the hue a little bit with the red, yellow, and blue. This is why I use red, yellow, and blue, and not just like a basic gray like Payne's gray. This way, the grays can be much more exciting and lively, and this will add to the expressive nature of your sky, okay? Because there's going to be variation in that gray. Since I've painted all the shadows, then I take a clean, damp brush, and I'm just going to soften some edges, get a little shape going. Okay, and then here's a key thing. Once you finish the sky study, you need to put some land in. And what that does, it automatically helps the sky to look airy and it looks like clouds. It's amazing how it works. So I just make up the land. I do not try to, again, copy the photo exactly. It's just about setting that darker value of the land so that the sky, it gives you that idea. And this is just so fun. Be free with it. Just play with it. Make up some trees, make up some grass, whatever you want. All right, so for the second study, I'm going to do a type of cloud that's like the sun has already gone down. And so you get this wonderful gradation in the back of the sky. Again, wet the paper, pre-wet the paper. And then you have dark clouds. Well, I'm going to start off with a warm yellow at the horizon, and then I'm bringing in kind of this lavender bluish color that I'm going to gradate into the bottom of the sky. So I'm going to try to get a nice gradation. And this gradation can be anything. As you see in the photo, it's a different one. There's all different kinds of gradations you get in the sky. And so just kind of play with it and have fun with it. So I'm going right into the yellow with this kind of purplish blue color. People ask me how I don't get green. It's because I'm using a more neutral blue. It's more purple, so it's not going to get green. The other thing is, notice I'm going to tilt my board, and so that way I can control and try to get that nice gradation while it's still wet. So letting those colors flow down into each other, but I'm not going to use a brush. I'm going to let gravity do the work. Next, while this is still wet, I'm going to bring in those dark clouds. So how did I get that cloud color? Again, red, yellow, and blue, just more pigment, less water. Remember, it's key to think of paint consistency. And if you haven't watched my tea to butter video, that would be a good one to watch. But basically, it's learning how to control how much water versus pigment is on your brush. And doing these cloud studies not only helps you get more confident in painting clouds, but it helps you in practicing the paint process. What I just did is I took a paper towel and I sucked out some of the water by touching it to the ferrule. And that way it sucks out some water, but still leaves some in the tip. And that's just a great way to control the water a little bit. Notice again, just like in the other cloud study, I am adjusting the grays by just adding a little more yellow or a little more red, stuff like that, so that there's variation. Now I'm going to paint the land. And again, whatever you want. I'm going to paint more of a distant mountain this time, kind of a bluish color. And then I'm going to bring in some grass. And then I'm going to bring in a few bushes and trees. Again, have fun with it, make it up. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but it does set the sky off. And it also just is more practice if you practicing wet into wet painting. All right, now let's go to the third study, which again, I'm going to pre-wet the sky area. This one I'm going to do a sunset. Now, I get with bright colors. So here I'm going to start with my most intense colors, which in this case, I changed my red, yellow, and blue. I'm now using Naples yellow with a bright scarlet lake and cobalt blue. And I use these colors, and it just depends on the sky, but I'm using these colors for the sunset specifically. I will use various red, yellows, and blues. Okay, so notice how I'm going around a white area and I'm kind of making a gradation. And as I'm going out, I'm going yellow to orange to red, and then I keep going out, and it looks really funny right now. And that's because this is just the base set of the sky behind those darker clouds. So once I've got the warm horizon in, now I'm going to turn that board over so that I can get the more purplish and light blue that's at the top of the sky. So I'm going to bring in some of these. Again, a lot of water, basically tea to coffee consistency, but the paper is also wet, so there's lots of water on there. Then I'm going to go right up to that warm area and try to get a subtle gradation, but I'm not too worried if it doesn't blend completely because I'm going to be going over this whole area with the darker clouds. This is just to set the base color of the sky, the lighter color of the sky. Again, tilting the board whenever I want to get more of a gradation, a softer gradation, not necessarily moving it with my brush. Now, as I turn it back over, I'm going to now get darker colors for the clouds. And so now I'm going to start bringing in, again, a grayish purplish color, which I got by mixing the red, yellow, and blue, probably a little lavender as well. Now, one thing we noticed from the photo, again, the reference photo should give you clues and tips about, okay, the cloud's darker than the sky, what's the sky behind it? But notice how the cloud gets warmer as it gets closer to the sun. And that's the type of thing that I'm going to try and attempt. So as I move down towards the sun area, I'm adding more reds and yellows in there, and I'll eventually get to more orange, so that as it gets closer, you get that wonderful gradation between the grayish purple to that wonderful warm gray. So that's the idea. So again, just look at the nature of the cloud and try to mimic that. Okay, now I noticed that the top part was not dark enough. So while things are still wet, I can drop in more pigment. So more pigment, less water. As long as things are wet and you don't have excess water on your brush, more water on your brush than's on the paper, it can work. Okay, here, as I get closer to that sun area, I'm using more orange. So I have more reds and yellows that I've put together, right, to get the clouds that are next to the sun like orange and kind of that maroon magenta color. But still, I want it darker than that sun area so that I get the feeling of the glow that's coming through. Now, this is all probably a little too wet. I noticed after doing this that I could have let things dry a little bit and it wouldn't blend so much together. I decided to just keep going, and sometimes this is why you're practicing it, to find out what works and what maybe doesn't. Now I'm getting some really orangish red color for the ground, for the mountain. I'm going to make a back mountain there, and right where the sun is coming up over that mountain, or going down under it, I guess, it's going to be much warmer. And then I'm going to put cooler, darker colors around it. And that will just accentuate that feeling of the glow. And again, I'm just making up some kind of land. It doesn't matter. I just want to be quick about it. I'm left a little bit of white, indicating there might be some kind of body of water there reflecting the sky. And so I'm just going to adjust that color after it's dry. And here are the studies. And again, this is just a great tool for all level of artists. Remember, don't try to paint the skies exactly. I don't draw in my skies, but this gives you confidence as you paint this type of sky. Then when you're outside painting or doing a painting in your studio, you know the process. Thanks for watching, and I hope this video was helpful in helping you gain confidence in painting more interesting skies in watercolor. If you would like to learn more from me and watch full painting demonstrations, please visit my website at travelingcolorstudio.com. Also, please like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks, and happy painting.